Hi everyone, I'm Dara Caponigro. Welcome to my series Deep Dive with Dara. Today we're here to talk about glamour and decorating, and we have the most suitable guest with us today, Mary McDonald, who's the epitome of sophistication and glamour.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary, for coming.
No pressure.
I thought we could just start by talking about glamour as a mood.
I think, the word glamour can be so many things. It might just be a great chandelier, or it might be large scale pedestals and urns. It doesn't necessarily have to be sparkly or shiny or crystally, but I do think it's sort of a presence that a room has when you walk by it or you look in it. That gives you a sense of something that is a little bit dramatic. And it could be a country house. That could be all wicker. So glamour to me is like that special intangible thing that isn't really about something that is fancy or sparkly. It's like an elevated level of style.
Okay.
So I would say that's what it is. It's an elevated level of style.
Okay. So if someone lives in a space like that, do you think it makes them behave differently?
I do, actually. I think when you're in a space that has a certain sense of theater to it, when you're in that space, you kind of feel special. It's like when you dress up to go on a date or go out for date night with your husband, it does make you feel a little bit different. It's something that you can't really put your finger on. That's what I like about it. You really can't totally put your finger on someone that is, or a room that is glamorous. It usually isn't one thing.
Okay. So I did want to ask you about, when is too much? Like sometimes glamorous can become glitz. So like, it sounds like one thing that you can do to not have something be too glitzy is to pare things away, right? I mean, are there other things, anything else that?
Well, you can pare things away to a point where it's too simple. It's definitely not for everybody because there's usually layered elements of drama and theater, a little bit to it. There's a few things that actually give a room glamour that are a little bit out there. Painting the ceiling, a saturated tone. I always think a pedestal and an urn adds this stately formality to things that seems glamorous. It could be a wicker pedestal and a wicker urn full of huge wildflowers, and there's something that's always glamorous about that. Sometimes it's just scale. It's the scale of something that's simple, and the largeness of it has like a museum type formality. Sometimes it's a huge painting. The whole room is around this huge painting. It's really never one thing. Sometimes people use way too many sparkly things together. I think the key is you can't have too many of the same gimmick. I call it a gimmick because it turns into a gimmick. A crystal chandelier, crystal this, crystal that. You're choosing one sparkly thing, but it takes away from all the sparkle. So there's a little bit of a formula, as there is with everything. That could be one lacquer item, one crystal-y item, a couple large-scale things. Glamour is really for people that are really willing to own it. It's very hard for someone that really isn't going to own it because you kind of look like you've got a dress on that you're just like so uncomfortable in. You know what I mean? So there's a bit of personality involved in that.
Yeah. So do you think growing up in LA has like fostered your sense of style and glamour?
I really don't feel like LA has, to be honest, because I didn't grow up in a movie environment. I kind of grew up around old-fashioned people that had chintz in living rooms and marble urns and kind of an old school thing. But people don't really realize like that actually exists in LA. They don't. They actually, sometimes they say, "You're from Los Angeles?" Like, are people from Los Angeles? I think, well, we all were that we grew up with. So I don't know if that fostered it, I have to say.
All right.
I don't know about that.
Okay. So one of the things that I noticed when preparing for this is that I was really analyzing your rooms, and you do a lot of rooms that are fairly monochromatic, that are kind of like, they might be different colors, but they're in the same family or something like that. Can you tell us about that?
I don't know. I'm drawn to actually the freshness of white on top of a very saturated color because it actually makes things look clean and ties things together. So I think I just ended up developing this look that wasn't intentional, that relies on just that contrast of a very saturated color with a bit of something that is light, that's punctuated all over. I think also the light furniture and the light tones on these saturated colors, I think it makes it a little more current and contemporary. It feels a little fresher. But sometimes I like just an outright grandma room. So I can't say that I don't have one thing I like.
No, I know. I mean, one of the rooms that I always think of that has a lot of pattern, it was the very first house of yours that I was in. It had a yellow living room, and you did that wonderful, we shot it for Domino, and you had that pattern on pattern animal room.
Oh, the leopard sunroom.
Yeah.
I actually love that.
I love that.
I love that. I call that my Castang room. But I like an animal print. Part of being dramatic or glamorous, you just have to be willing to go for it. Not everybody's going to like it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not.
Well, it was your house, so you could do whatever you
that's
want.
right. They're just not.
Exactly.
It was mine.
Yeah. So if I remember, you had it on the sofas, you had it on some chairs, on the curtains. Did you have the...
I literally had the walls wallpapered in it, the curtains, and the sofa. And then I had an accent stripe that sort of pulled those, just a little bit of a stripe on some Napoleon chairs, I remember. But there's an evenness to repeating a fabric in like a small scale, no matter what it is. If it's on everything, it almost becomes a neutral, a busy neutral, but there is a cohesive neatness to it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. So talk to us about entryways and entrances to rooms. So is the point of entry, like I think of some of your entryways, they're so powerful and dramatic. Is that like an important part of the house? Like, do you start there? Like, do you always make a point of making it special?
If I can. You're setting it up for whatever is coming next. I do like a foyer that's like a jewel box, even if it was contemporary. I don't think you should treat your entry rooms like with just a hall light and a little chest. I think it's an opportunity, and it's actually an easier opportunity because you don't have to do a huge room. If you wanted something that was really sparkly, you have a little space that you could do more in, and you don't have to live in it. So if it's like loud or noisy or too dramatic, you don't have to. If it's too scary, it's very controlled. So it's kind of an opportunity to have a controlled sense of drama and theater.
Right. And what about painted floors? I noticed that you do a lot of beautiful graphic painted floors.
Well, I just actually love one graphic thing in a room. So I just started being drawn to it years ago. I noticed they kind of weren't in for a while. And sometimes I would paint seagrass floors or even wood floors. I liked one large scale element done in a little bit of a contemporary way because I thought it also added an edge to things that were pretty old fashioned that I liked. So I'm also someone that's a little bit arty, craftsy. So a painted floor is my way of getting to be creative and think outside the box and not just get the appropriate patterned carpet. So there's always something I would like to do because I'm actually kind of arty like that. It doesn't seem like I am, but I can't, I'm not allowed to be the arty person like that I really would be. So that's all I get. It's like, that's what I get.
I think that most people think of glamorous spaces as being more, lighter, but you do some very glamorous dark spaces too.
Do they think
I
of
think
them
so.
as being lighter?
Or more feminine. Maybe they think of them as more feminine, and you've done some like really cool, glamorous masculine rooms.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
See, that's how I think of it too. People do think the word glamour usually evokes like Jean Harlow or Like think of an old movie star with a boa. I mean, that's what that word evokes. So I agree with you. Sometimes it's just used for something that's feminine and foofy, but I don't really, I do see that some of these rooms, they're glamorous in a very masculine way. I have done some men's homes that were done in all suiting fabrics, but it had to do with the scale of the accessories and the art. If you can do things that are like a large scale, that is somewhat seems important, like a big, huge painting, it might not be important, but it's a very large painting, an old painting with a pretty gilded frame. Something about the scale of that has a real theatrical glamour to it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be feminine. The subject matter of it could be very masculine, but sometimes it's just your color, just the tonalities of how you put something together that's like a high-low, a charcoal gray with warm ivories. Like that right there has just the high contrast of that has a very movie-like quality. So, or something like navy and something light. Like the contrast of a very dark valued hue with something light creates kind of a drama.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, it could just even be unimportant, like IKEA stuff.
Yeah. So you do some pretty extraordinary bathrooms and closets too. You know, I mean, you really like pay attention to every single room in the house. So can you talk us through like one of your favorite bathrooms or closet projects or?
Well, I just finished a great closet in Bel Air that I love. We just had a huge raw space, and instead of doing just a bathroom, we did a bathroom closet combo, because that way we could have a really big space and we weren't cutting it into like a pretty little bathroom and a pretty little closet.
So let's talk about glamour on a budget. I remember when I first met you, it was for a Domino shoot, and we came and we did your offices and we focused on all the cool decorating tricks that you'd done in your office. And one of the things that you had done that I thought was so ingenious, and I'll let you describe it, but it involved the art behind your desk.
Oh, well, I collected different just fashion books that I love. Old fashioned photography, kind of old 50s fashion photography. So I actually just cut up a bunch of books because I didn't really have any. And I just got different black frames with different mats and had a whole montage of different black and white. I made sure everything was only black and white photographs, just in sort of a melange of different sizes, and I just made a whole wallscape out of it. So you just sort of had to plan out how many different, and I made sure they were different sizes so that it looked like a lifetime collection. But it really was sort of a bookstore hit of that one's good, this one's good, and then I had them framed.
All right, so what are some of your favorite glamorous rooms through history?
My favorite place ever is Malmaison.
Okay.
Which is Napoleon and Josephine's, just for anybody that doesn't know, not that you know, house in the country outside of Paris. And it's very empire. The whole place is still decorated the way it was. It's a lot of fabric swagged rooms, directoire wainscoting, tent rooms. I mean, it's also I love a tent room. I also just sort of like a theme, like any theme, just get in and do it. I love the Givenchy living room in Paris with all the green velvet furniture. I mean, the room itself with nothing in it is beautiful, all the paneling, the boiserie, but I love the room. Like I really like something that is from another time. I mean, that's what I really love. I'll tell you a room that someone did that I also love someone I know that's a contemporary. I loved Alex Papakristides' Kips Bay room a few years ago that was all gray and white, and it was a little zingy modern. It had a painted floor, but it was very it was very glamorous.
Yeah, I know which one you mean. That is a good one.
It's kind of like a contemporary version of something like that. I mean, I really like rooms like that.
Do you ever think you were reincarnated?
Yes. Are we going to get into past lives?
Who would you have been?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I was anyone. Maybe I'm just trying to get there now. I don't know. I definitely feel like I probably lived in another time where you wore big skirts and corsets because I'm so drawn to 18th century, really France, actually, like almost more in costume. But who would I have been? I don't know. I could have just been a peasant that looked at these people and said, when am I going to wear that? I don't know. It feels very natural to me, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't outside the glass looking in a 200 years ago.
You have something so special about you. Like, I think it's so unique and so singular.
That you can't
and
put
so,
your finger on it?
Well, it's just very singular. Yeah, exactly. You have a super singular way about you.
Oh, well,
and
thank
a
you.
way about your style. And it's cool to know somebody who, loves something and sticks by it and sees it through. And like, it really, you are that person, and through, I think.
Well, that's probably true.
Yeah.
That's probably true, but when you really feel a certain way about whatever it is, whatever artistic thing it is, you don't really have a choice. You can try to fit in, but it never works well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the expression? Be yourself, everyone else is taken.
I haven't heard that, but that's a good one.
If you can try to fit in, I even have to fit in work ways where I'm like, well, that's not totally me, but it challenges me to see things from another perspective, but it's not totally me. The inside of whatever makes people tick will always keep bubbling up.
Yeah.
There's part of me that wants to put a ball gown skirt all the time, just for fun. In a like yard boot, like a skirt and a yard boot. When I was little, I actually used to put my Christmas dress on and go out and play sometimes in the summer. And my friend's brother was like, "Where are you going?" And I remember I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming over to play, just because I remember liking it. It had a bow here, and I was like, "This is great. I'm putting this on." It makes me laugh now because it's so
But you were
silly.
born that way. It's so
Isn't
cool.
that funny?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, it's impractical, but it made me laugh. So there is a part of me that wants to be like I go. The reason I liked Malmaison is because I actually could go live in it. Like I wouldn't even need to change it and put contemporary sofas. I like the way the whole place is.
You were definitely reincarnated.
Maybe.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining my deep dive. Really fun.
Thank you so much.